Good morning, guys. Welcome back. I'm going to let the chickens out real quick or they're going to keep yelling at me, and it's early. I don't want them to be loud. Shh. The moment I let them out, they're very content. But anyway, guys, we are officially at this point in the garden where everything is really starting to take hold and really grow. Honestly, I have been so busy with just regular maintenance and weeding. This has been the worst spring I've ever had with weeds. And I've mentioned this in a few videos now, but my straw sprouted. All of my old maple tree seedlings sprouted, and then the compost I ended up buying, which I have bought compost, bulk compost like this from the same people for years and never had a single issue with this. The compost I ended up buying was probably the worst part of all of the weeding. It sprouted up so many melons or pumpkins or things like that, and I've spent hours weeding this week, but I'm hoping that I'm on the home stretch of it all. You guys have to see my volunteer sunflower right now. This thing is getting absolutely massive. I'm thinking I might need to prune it just a little bit because there are so many branching leaves on it and it's already going straight to the trellis. But the garlic is actually a bit behind the last few years, and this was the main thing I really wanted to talk to you guys about this morning because a lot of people are approaching garlic harvest time. So regardless of the type of garlic you planted, hardneck or softneck, you're going to be looking for a very similar cue. You want about half of your leaves to die back before you harvest, and currently right now it's looking like I have roughly 2 full leaves dead on most of the plants, and I'm having my third start to really yellow. But for the hardneck garlic, you're also going to get something called a scape that comes up, which is the flower head of the garlic. And this is what all hardneck varieties produce. Softneck won't produce this, so this is something that you're not going to have to worry about if you're only doing softneck, but hardnecks produce this. This scape here tastes so good. They taste just like garlic. In the past, I've actually really enjoyed freeze drying these, adding them to soups and stews, kind of like chives and things like that. I want to play around with a few different other things this year, but the one that just literally dripped on me, now my hand smells like garlic. But the one thing this year that is slightly throwing me off is how late the scapes are appearing. So for instance, I believe I have 4 different varieties of hardneck growing and 1 of softneck. So this is Chestnut Red. I want to say this is Russian Red, German Fire, and then I have Italian Purple over there. And then I also have Ischium Red, which is my softneck variety over there. But when it comes to the hardneck, I'm only just now starting to get scapes on my chestnut. I have a few that are starting to curl, but I really won't be harvesting these probably for another handful of days, and that's only the chestnut. I'm starting to see them slightly peak on some of my other hardneck varieties, but for instance, this Georgian Fire here hasn't set up a single scape, and by this point last year and the year before, I want to say I was pretty much already done harvesting scapes. The last, I want to say 3 years, I've harvested my garlic close to that end of the first week of June, and this year I'm really thinking it's going to be closer to the second week of June. The very first year I grew garlic, it was closer to that second week of June, and it always kind of surprised me after that my garlic was pretty ready the first week of June. But this year it's seeming like a little bit later of a year. We have had a few spikes of heat, but for the most part I feel like we've been relatively cooler. We did have one day in the 90s last week that was super sunny that ended up causing some stress with some of the plants because I don't think they were really ready for that type of heat. But we're just a little bit behind, and I really wasn't prepared just because the last handful of years I've really been doing all of my garlic harvesting that first week of June. I was editing and I realized I never talked about why you remove the scape. So it is claimed that if you remove this scape, it's supposed to produce a larger garlic bulb. I've never not harvested the scape, but it's one of those things where people say to do that because of that reason. So I just wanted to include that in here. I will say I'm really excited about this year's harvest because I did do soft neck again, and last year was my first year doing soft neck. And if you don't know the differences between soft and hard neck garlic, soft neck garlic tends to store a lot better because they're a lot tighter of a clove, giving them a little bit better storage ability. But for me, the flavor of hard neck garlic is just unmatched. It just does not store as well. So most hard neck varieties will store between about 4 to 6 months, maybe 7, give or take, depending on the variety. And soft neck varieties are really close to that 8 to 12 month window. So this last year, I was really able to get a full year's worth of garlic. In the past, I've said year's worth of garlic, and that's when I have freezed garlic in the past. But this year, I had fresh garlic that I could pull from my basement until end of January. At that point, I went ahead and processed it because it was starting to sprout. But I still have garlic powder. I still have about 1.5 pints of garlic powder, and that should get us clear into July once this stuff is cured, which is really, really exciting. So this year I did plant, I want to say roughly 15 or 20 more plants. A lot of garlic companies will actually start doing pre-orders in the summer for their garlic. So you can get on top of that. They'll ship it when it's ready, and then you just plant it in September through November, depending on where you live. But that is kind of the update on this. Let me give you guys a closer look at the leaves and how they look when they're dying back. This stuff is really going to start yellowing over the next few weeks. I feel like last week was the peak of it being really tall and green. But as you can see, I'm thinking we probably already had one full leaf die. Sometimes you can't see the one that dies first, but here there's 1, 2 fully dead leaves. You're seeing the third leaf fully almost go yellow, and then the fourth leaf is turning a little bit yellow. This one here, we have 1 leaf dead, 2 leaf dead. The third one here is starting to yellow, and the fourth one is still just fine. So when it comes to a garlic plant, you typically have 10 leaves. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So technically I had 12 on this one. So I'd be looking at roughly about 5 to 6 of these leaves completely dying back. When it gets to be about right here, and I'm seeing all of these leaves turn yellow, and I have roughly a handful that are still green up here, that is when I like to pull. And then I forgot to add, you don't want to have too many of your leaves die back, because each one of those leaves is that papery layer around your garlic. And if you let too much of them die back, you risk them not storing as good. But if you pull them too early, you risk your garlic bulb not being that big. So I like to pull it half. I find that to be a really good area to go ahead and pull the garlic. One thing I'm probably going to have to do a little bit differently this year when it comes to my garlic harvest is harvest varieties at different times, simply because they're all scaping at different times and they're all at different stages, which typically is not the case for me. I'm typically doing one big swoop of garlic harvest and I'm calling it a day. But I'm thinking this year, I mean, honestly, the next few weeks could completely throw me for a loop and all these plans will be completely out the window. But I'm thinking the chestnut will be harvested first just because this is the one that is starting to scape and die back a little bit faster. One thing with the garlic that I wanted to mention is I am now completely done fertilizing it. So when it comes to the onions and the garlic, roughly that last month before harvest, completely pull back on fertilizing your plants. You really want the plant to take up all of its energy and store it into its bulb. So I stopped fertilizing the garlic about a week ago once I started noticing these scapes appear and everything starting to die back. When it comes to your soft neck, it might be a little bit trickier. Just know that if you're approaching that window, you should probably stop feeding it. I do feed mine with fish and seaweed fertilizer, and I've been feeding the garlic with that for the last 2 years on roughly an every 10-day cycle as it started to grow. I think I started to feed it at the end of February this year. So March, April, about 2.5 months roughly of feeding these plants every 10 days. And now we are done. One thing I will do is I will link last year's garlic video if you guys want to go back to it and see my curing setup for the garlic. So I cure all of this in my garage on the wall. We have some hog paneling that is attached with some 2x4s that really help with good airflow. And that is typically how I cure. So I cure my garlic for about a 4-week window. Sometimes I will end up cutting the stem just to double check to see if everything is turned white or brown versus green. That is one indicator to really know you're ready. And the other thing with hard neck versus soft neck that a lot of people don't know until you start growing garlic is the soft neck varieties are the ones that you can create a braid with, and hard neck varieties, their stems are a bit thicker, so most of the time people say you can braid them, but it's just a lot harder. I actually like to cut my garlic down and just lay it flat. That way it gets really good airflow in my basement. One of the things I noticed last night when I was watering is we had a really bad windstorm, and I've had a few guys comment asking me how our weather's been because we have been in tornado watches and we've had a lot of hail in our area over the last week. Luckily enough, we completely dodged all the weather, but we had some really bad wind the other night that actually caused the garlic to slightly flop over. It's only in this general area I kind of hit it back up, but this was all completely knocked, which I have never had that problem before. I did have some of my tomato plants over here get knocked from some branches, so looks like this tomato got topped. My tomatillos ended up getting hit a little bit. You can see here just how there's zero stem, but luckily enough for us, we just got some rain and some really bad wind. I think we were having 70 to 80 mile per hour winds, and that is another reason why I did my windbreak for the onions, and it does look like they flopped a little bit. It's still not compared to like the damage I dealt with last year when it comes to the onions. I'm really feeling like this wind block is helping out a ton because that wind would have really probably destroyed those onions, and they honestly look pretty good. You can see some of them bent, but they're not broke. So I think they're going to be just fine, but they do look a little chaotic and messy, that's for sure. And then it's looking like our lettuce is already on the way out. Same with spinach. Cabbage will probably only be here for a little bit longer. And I'm thinking I might end up putting another row of tomatoes right here. Our broccoli is heading up, and we will actually be harvesting broccoli in probably just the next like 2 weeks. So look at this broccoli, you guys. It is looking so beautiful. I had to keep up on, oh my goodness, girl. It's this one chicken. She's always so loud. She's my queen bee. Anyway, so this is the biggest one so far. All of them are really starting to head up. I did have some issues with some caterpillars, but otherwise they are looking really good. I'm really happy. This bell star is honestly my tried and true, but they're looking really good. While I'm over here, you guys see all of my volunteer sunflowers that are popping up from the big sunflowers last year. I have them kind of everywhere, but my potatoes are starting to sprout, and this is something I need to get some more mulch on. But you can see here, this was another area I added some of that new compost and soil, and I literally have so many either melons or pumpkins or whatever this is popping up all through the garden beds that I topped with new soil, and it's been so frustrating. You can see here, this is also the straw sprouting. So this is one of the few areas I have not got to, and this will be something I will be working on in just a little bit. It's like a mini impromptu garden tour right now, but the peas are starting to bloom. I'm really excited about the peas this year. They look so pretty. This is probably the best looking peas I may have ever grown. Ooh, I have not seen that yet. Our poppies are starting to put on buds. Oh, I'm so excited for the poppies. And last night, I noticed we have our first tomatoes appearing. Ta-da! Very excited about that. Oh, I need to show you guys the Cosmo variety I ended up going with this year. Okay, so it's called Apricota, I believe. And I am so excited about this. These look so pretty. A lot of my zinnias haven't started to bloom yet, but my Cosmos are really starting and I'm so excited. Look at these colors. Oh my gosh, they are just so beautiful. And there's like different tones of them, where this one's a little bit more yellowy, this one's a little bit more orangey, pinky. Oh my goodness, I'm loving them so much. I think they are so beautiful. And look guys, they're going to go perfect with the yarrow I've had planted for years, and my zinnias are in the same colorway as well, and the snapdragons. The snapdragons are about to bloom. We are, I don't know what is fuzzy on this, but we're starting to get really close with some of the snapdragons as well. I honestly think this year, the one thing I'm most excited about is just my different colorway of flowers. Every year I try to find a new flower I can add, but this year I decided to not grow some of the ones I've grown over the last few years and try to change up just the colors a little bit. I wanted to have a little bit more softer tones, more pinky tones, and not so much the deep pinks and like orangey colors. I had a lot of sunset tones the last few years, and I just wanted it to be very pink this year, and I'm starting to see little pockets of it appearing, and it's making me so excited for bouquet making. And the other thing is I now have seen a ton of ladybugs. I was thinking they weren't going to really appear this year because they're around the garden at this point, but this was one of the areas I heavily had to weed. This is carrots right here along the edge. Clearly I did still miss a few weeds. That's how many weeds were in here, but this was flooded with ladybugs because I found aphids on my peppers, but the ladybugs came to eat it. And that is one reason why I haven't sprayed my garden in years. I just try to let the good bugs do as much as they possibly can for the bad bugs, and then I do a ton of hand picking to kind of offset any type of pest that becomes an issue. For me, the two main things I have to do a lot of hand picking on throughout the year is cabbage moths and then squash bugs. Other than that, I'm pretty hands-off when it comes to majority of the other pests. I definitely have aphids in this garden, but for the most part, they end up being controlled by ladybugs and green lacewings. I will say in those beginning years, I had to be a lot more on top of it than I do now. I feel like as your garden grows and gets established, a lot of those things aren't as much of a problem. Year one that you're gardening, you typically don't have too many issues with pests. They just haven't found your garden yet. And if you are new to gardening and this is your first year, just know your second year might not be as easy when it comes to pests because they found your garden now. And honestly, I think that is the one thing about gardening that can be so tricky in the beginning. I feel like now I kind of expect it, like with the garlic, where things are just not timed the same, or you're dealing with different pests, or you're dealing with a different weather issue. Gardening is always going to keep you on your toes, and every season is so different from the next. So you can plan and try to prepare yourself for certain situations, but honestly, this is my 8th year garden, and I've never had a single gardening year resemble the last one. But nothing too exciting for the day. Just wanted to give you guys this quick little update on the garden and show you guys where everything is currently at, just to explain the differences I'm seeing in the gardening space and what's to come. Honestly, I have a few of these weeks throughout the season where there's just not too much going on outside of basic maintenance. And I feel like I've shown you guys me weeding my garden way too many times this spring already. And there's just not much else I need to do. But I wanted to kind of share what's going on with the garlic, what I'm going to be looking at for the garlic over the next few weeks, and kind of just the things that have been going on. I hope you guys enjoyed this little quick update this morning. I hope your gardening season is going great, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.